Nice job. Do you have the USB-C to C? Gotta be kidding me. Oh, my knee.
A very wise man once said, "It is better to try something and fail than to try nothing and succeed. The result may be the same, but you won't be." We always grow more through defeats than through victories. I really like that quote. I don't know who the guy was that said it, but I think he's on to something. Here's the thing. I have watched so many parents make sure their kids could never be allowed to play down, or what they would consider playing down. Never put them on a team where it wasn't a lock to win, because they wanted to teach their kids how to win. One of the best ways to teach a kid how to win is to teach a kid what it's like to lose, so they appreciate the wins. I've watched parents pull kids from teams. Those kids struggle when real life throws them losses. And eventually, kids grow up. Parents don't have the ability to guide them through the losses. And so as an adult, they experience loss for the first time. And it's difficult for them to navigate those losses if they've never learned how to lose. When a mobile live stream fails, for example, the 2 times I tried to go live tonight and failed to do so. User error. It's always user error, and I'm really good at that. But when a live stream fails, I like to dive in, and see what I can find that made it fail, so that the next time I set myself up for success. But I learned through the failure. I learned through the loss. We learned what we can depend on, the equipment. We learned sometimes who we can depend on. We learn what we're made of whenever we go through those losses. And so when your mobile live stream fails, and it's going to, that's just going to happen at some point. When it does, let the setback launch you forward. It will, if you dive into what went wrong and try to figure it out. Folks, we've got a great podcast for you this evening. It's going to be so much fun to get to visit with Joe Capehart from Logitech Mevo. He has been the guy that you've all looked to. You have probably tagged him in posts on the Mevo customer group. You've watched him on YouTube as he has unveiled, unboxed, as he has brought new features in software. Joe is one of those guys that sets you at ease whenever you're visiting with him. Although his face, his persona is out there. I mean, he is constantly putting himself in front of folks. because he believes in the product that he represents. I love visiting with the guy, and you're going to have a good time visiting with him as well. We'll bring him in just a couple of more seconds. I have a few things at the end that I want to update you on, some things that I'm looking forward to testing for myself, some things that maybe you didn't see, maybe they flew under the radar, so stick around to the end and we'll get to that in just a little bit. If you have questions and we get time to answer questions, I am monitoring the chat, so put them in there if you'd like to. If you want to see if we can get some questions answered. I'm going to tell you, I've asked Joe questions that he just doesn't answer because sometimes, you know what, he knows things that he can't tell us yet, and that's okay. So, Joe, I'm going to add you in just a second, but I've got to get a little picture-in-picture first. So that is because I've failed at making this go live so many times. Well, you know, I didn't have picture-in-picture set up already. So there's A, and there is B. Let us split. Oh no, we need to swap those two and do that. Now I need to scooch just a little bit. Look, if folks are offended by me talking on a live stream through what I'm actually trying to do, they're just going to have to be offended, aren't they? Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to get there. Welcome, Joseph Capehart. It is so good to have you on this podcast. Thank you for taking the time. I know that family things are taking you into a different place than you usually are. I know you were sick last week, and I'm so glad you're better. But thanks for taking the time to come in with us today.
Fortunately, is the mixture of all the seasons changing and all of the travel we've been doing, I've not had any luck staying healthy.
You know what you should do in your spare time? You should substitute teach or volunteer at a school, elementary school preferably. My wife is the PE coach at her school, and she has the best immune system of anybody I've ever known.
Yeah, no, I've actually tried to get involved with some local schools here, seeing if I can get them set up with some live streaming gear. That way we can kind of get some cool footage that we can share on the website. So being from small town Ohio, I've always tried to see how we can get involved and bring big time tech to each school around here who might not have budget. So I've tried. So maybe I'll build out my immune system that way. We'll see.
Maybe so. You know, what I've found about living in a small town is that everything revolves around the school. And so if you can plug into what's happening at the school, you've plugged into the community and made yourself somewhat invaluable there.
Absolutely.
All right. So I've got some questions that I'd like to ask. The kind of things that everybody wants to know, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And full disclosure, I did give Joe some of these questions beforehand so it wouldn't just completely catch him off guard. So he's probably ready with an answer. But everybody wants to know, if you're a pet guy, what kind of pet lives at your house?
Yeah. So luckily, most of the questions you sent over are super easy. Only a couple of them were like, I should probably watch how I approach some of these. But luckily, most of my responses are genuine and just wouldn't upset anybody at work. So that's the whole thing. Luckily, my opinions are pretty aligned with the company pretty well. But as far as me being a pet guy, absolutely. I've got Echo. Echo is my dog. He is a Siberian Husky. I'm a dog guy through and through. We do have some cats in my family, not in my house, but I'm definitely a dog guy. He's been my best friend for the better half of 9 years almost. And, he's here with me today. He's sleeping behind me, but he's definitely dog. I got something I can rough house with and who wants to hang out with me at the end of the day.
So what kind of dog is Echo?
Yeah, so he's a red Siberian Husky, about 45 pounds.
Okay.
Yeah, he's about 45 pounds. He's pretty small for a Husky, but you wouldn't know that he's turning 9 this year. He's super ornery, and he can turn it on real quick, a snap of a finger. He's acting like he's 2 years old again, and I'm like, oh, here it is. Yeah.
Never had a Husky. We've always had mutts, and had really good luck with them. We had one that is 11 or 12. He's a 85, 90 pound lab mix, but something bigger than lab because he way outgrew his mom. And then my wife thought it would be a great idea to get a golden doodle.
Oh, they're so pretty.
They're so...
No?
Oh, they're beautiful dogs. He is the most annoying, obsessive, compulsive animal I have ever seen in my life.
Oh, that's so funny.
And he loves me.
That's
He
so
loves
funny.
to go to work with me. He loves to be in the yard with me. He doesn't like to ride, so I can't take him in my Jeep. But, man, he loves hanging out with me.
Yeah.
So he's not horrible, the worst, but he's not great either. He's still a puppy.
Yeah, Echo doesn't do car rides unless he's in my significant other's truck. He absolutely loves that.
Okay.
My car, not a fan of it at all.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned before we started this live that you were working on some print farm things. I have seen the backdrop, the wall behind, in your studio, in your office, whatever that is, and you say it's 100% printed. All the things on that wall are printed. And folks, I know you can't see that now, but we're talking about, it was purple, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like
Kind
a
of a
deep
blue.
blue. It's kind of a blurple.
Yeah.
We'll go with blurple.
It's a blurple, okay. But it's just solid, and he's got all these, that part's printed, and then everything he's got on it is printed. So how did you start with that? How did you get into this whole idea of 3D printing?
Interestingly enough, so anybody who knows me prior to Mevo is I was always been, I don't know, dealing with gadgets. Whether it was Mevo Plus and trying to replace Mevo Boost at the time before ever working for Mevo. I don't know if a lot of people remember, but I was working on like a Boost alternative. Which was essentially a bunch of adapters that I was going to print a case for and put the adapters in it to make it nice and user-friendly, and make it look clean. And then when I finally got hired at Mevo, they had a 3D printer, and I had never seen one before. I've never used one before. My first prototype was with cardboard. And once I realized that I could turn nothing into something, I've just absolutely fell in love with it. So it started with trying to create fun solutions for myself, and then I started doing fun solutions for others. And as you and I were talking about earlier, our printers never see fun anymore. Now it's constantly printing products. And yeah, I was telling you, like I'm pushing 20 printers at this point,
which blows my mind.
It's quite a bit, but it's been a blast and a very fun and a rewarding journey to kind of go on. And
cool.
Surprisingly to nobody, it started with Mevo.
Of course, right? Yeah. But being a gadget guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Absolutely.
So
true to my core.
That pre-Mevo time in your life, and I know that Mevo's history itself was a startup. Maybe not technically a startup, but it was a very small company when Max had it and created an incredible product. And then it sold, and then he bought it back, and then it sold again. And you've been in a lot of that. What's the difference between working for a very small company, maybe even a startup company, and working for a giant company like Logitech is now?
Sure. It's different, but what's great about Logitech is that they've allowed us to truly just operate as the team that we are.
That's awesome.
So we've got a great majority of our team from all the way back in live stream is still here with us. And then, Logitech brings us that name and that recognition when you say that name out loud. Now, the challenges with that is when you say Logitech, you think webcam. And, if we were any of the other acquisitions from Logitech's, tenure or whatever, Logitech owns Streamlabs. They own Blue Microphones. They own a lot of really recognizable brands, but none of those are cameras. So with Mevo being a camera company and then being acquired by, who everyone is world-renowned webcam company, it's tough to kind of defeat that instant, look, Logitech released this new $1,000 webcam. And it's like, Oh, it is so much more than that.
Yes.
It is definitely a webcam as a secondary tool. So I think that's the biggest challenge is, we've got the backing and support of Logitech. They're giving us the resources, they're giving us the time, and then their knowledge as well has been great to see. Trying to expand the market however we can using their expertise, but we've kind of have to defeat those instincts to default the brand of Logitech and kind of dump Mevo into it, because anybody who's used Mevo knows that it's not just a webcam. Webcam kind of came secondhand and out of necessity during COVID, and a lot of users do use it, and it's been a great benefit to many users. But it's a very powerful mobile live streaming solution. So I think that's the biggest challenge, but I think the benefits of being part of Logitech greatly outweigh that negative. And I think, we're currently working on, at least I am, I've recently taken over all of the socials for Mevo. So, I'm currently trying to tackle that head on with some of our creators and any kind of connections that we might have. If, make sure people know that, yes, we are a Logitech brand, we are a Logitech company, but don't look at this as just a webcam, because like I said, it's a lot more. And I think anybody who's ever used Mevo knows that.
Yeah. Now I do use mine for a webcam because it's an incredible picture. But when I think of Logitech, I think mouse, keyboard, peripherals. I love my MX, whatever it is, mouse and keyboard. And that's great stuff. But you say that Mevo kind of exists inside a bigger Logitech, but it exists on its own. Now, I know that's not really possible, but it's allowed to function as its own. Yeah.
Yep. So, I mean, we've got Otto, who's the head of Mevo. He oversees all of the functions below Mevo. So naturally he reports to other people, and, that's just the way a business works. But outside of random resources that we might need, just for amplification, for example, we go to, we went to, I call it the Logitech motherboard, or not mothership, not motherboard, but the mothership, right? I was like, if I go to the social team for the mothership team, it's like, hey, can you guys amplify this post, or can you guys do this? And that helps us get out in front of millions of more people. So, but outside of, asking those favors and, asking for them to kind of amplify our existence and let people know that we exist, we operate pretty independently, and they kind of are just there to bring us to another level, it's been really cool to see, especially coming from, our relationship and our past with Vimeo. They are a software first company, and Logitech being a hardware first company, there's obviously a difference between how you approach business. Love our Vimeo family, but it's been nice to kind of integrate into a hardware team again.
Yeah. You have been, you mentioned that now you've taken over their socials. Crazy. Mm-hmm. You've been so good at the customer experience. I've watched you in answering the questions, of course, on Mevo Customer Group, with such tact, always just gentle in your answers, and sometimes an inflammatory question, but you're coming back at them with reason, thoughtfulness, and that is so appreciated. And I have to ask, has a role in customer experience, a role in answering social media questions, how's that shaped how you see people? Are you naturally skeptical or trusting?
See, this is the question that I was like, how do I answer this one? Just because it could go any different way, I think it's interesting because my background is not in customers. It's not in any of these things. It just kind of naturally happened because I enjoy helping people. And all of my hobbies and such kind of made it easy to do that. And even when I'm not part of like Logitech for gaming, for example, and I was primarily doing just Mevo, I was still invited out to go to TwitchCon and talk to users and, explain the different technologies that Logitech has and how it all works. And I just genuinely enjoy it. So I tried to come at it from an approach of, if a user's having a hard time and they're getting angry with me or they're getting angry, why make it harder? Like, I understand that it's a stressful situation. Me getting upset, me being angry is not helping anybody. And, you know, I think the best approach that I've found so far, and obviously, you know, why I've kind of taken over socials recently, is that I think our community and consumers as a whole just wants to be treated like a human and not another number.
Yeah.
And I think by just saying, like, you know, look, I'm trying to do my best here. Like, I want to help you. And if you get me what I need here, it's for a reason and for a purpose. I'm not just trying to give you busy work. I'm not just trying to, you know, I'm trying to get to the end goal that you want, because nothing would make me happier than you not opening a ticket again, or you not submitting, you know, a negative post. Like, nothing would make me happier than seeing you have successful content, successful streams.
Yes.
And it allows you to become another advocate in the Mevo ecosystem. Is you get to go and tell more people about how much you love Mevo, because, you know, you're supported, it's working, and everything's good. When everything's great, no one's going to bother me, no one's going to cherish me, no one's going to say thank you. But that's perfectly fine. I'd rather not have that than, you know, have any of our users out there struggling with their investment. And I think just approaching it from the standpoint of just treat people like you would want to be treated. Like, not to go back to the golden rule, but that really is what it comes down to. Yeah, it's really what it comes down to, is just, you know, make sure you're talking to them like they're humans and not just, you know, another source of income. And if you do that, then users appreciate it. Like you said, they welcome that, and just kind of being like, look, I'm going to give it to you straightforward, not a corporate speak, none of that. Unfortunately, sometimes I do have to get into corporate speak when it's like, you know, all right, we're really not getting anywhere for whatever reason. So I'm just going to have to push you back to tickets, and I will kind of go hands off from there. But, you know, I do my best to kind of keep a cool temper and try to help out, because I understand that nothing's worse than spending hundreds of dollars and finding out something's not working.
Yes.
So that, you know, it's a tough approach, but at the end of the day, I absolutely love it. I love the community, and I think the reward at the end of seeing, you know, the likes of you, or, you know, Jared Wheeler or Gordon, or, you know, any of those names in the community that people know, I just think of, like, this could be the next one of those. You know, the next person I help could be that next advocate that's going to go out there and tell everybody that this is worth investing in, and the community's great, the team, the company cares. Like, that's what I want. So if it takes a couple of angry people to, you know, if I've got to be the punching bag, I'll be the punching bag, but hopefully I can reverse their opinion by simply helping.
Yeah, and you're really good at deflecting that. There's a couple of questions coming through in the chat that I'm going to save till later, but there are some that are speaking directly to this, and they're comments, not necessarily questions. And you answer, I can't stream to Facebook 150 times, Fathead 302 said. You do. You answer that question way too many times.
That's a tough one. And, you know, it's tough because I understand that people want to go to the platform they use the most. But like I said, you know, and this isn't a bashing Facebook by any means, but at the end of the day, if a user is going to wrestle with their setup, I'm going to push them to a solution that is going to cause them to stop wrestling with it.
Yeah.
So, you know, if things are going to constantly be changing, you know, if people are set on Facebook, go to Facebook. I get it. It's convenient. It's easy. But that's not going to stop me from saying, hey, if you're tired of wrestling with this, if you want something consistent, just go to YouTube and share the link.
Yes.
Because unfortunately, platforms that aren't meant for something aren't always going to be the best solution. So, like, Facebook started out as a social media platform, video second. YouTube started out as a YouTube platform, everything else second.
There you go.
So, you know, that's use the tool for whatever you're trying to do. If you're stuck using Facebook, I get it. And I'm never going to say not to go to Facebook, but if you're truly that frustrated with it, then go to a different
Then
platform.
let's try something else. Yeah, because it's easy and it's convenient until it's not.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, I'm friends. I obviously have friends over at Sideline. I've got friends at Game Changer. I've got friends at all
Yes.
these platforms. And it's like, you know, one of the things that I've seen from Leslie is like, just go set up a channel. It takes 24 hours. At least it's done, right?
Yes.
You know, at least you have it done. And if worst comes the worst, you have it if you need it. Let's hope you don't need it. But if you need it, you have it. And I think that's the best approach that anybody could give is like, I get it. You're frustrated. You want to use Facebook still, but just do yourself a favor and at least have a backup set up.
Yeah, you need that by all means. All right. It's time for us to start talking a little bit about the new product, the Mevo Core. And I have a feeling there may be some questions that come from this, but my question for you is related to how well it does both in-house streaming and mobile live streaming. And there's no other camera that does that. The other cameras that are out are good for what they do, but they don't touch this for both. Sports streaming, where you need a battery, long battery life, right? You need to be able to set it wherever, hang it wherever, and know it's going to last the length of a baseball game or a soccer match or something like that. Or put it in the back of your church, put a nice lens that will zoom far enough, and it's a great streaming for in-house as well. In the process, and I don't know how involved you are in the process of new products that come out, but was that by design to be able to operate in both worlds so well?
You know, it's the goal is always to operate in both worlds. You know, the mantra, and somebody was, whether I don't know if they were complaining about it earlier, but the mantra earlier that I seen someone mention is live streaming first, mobile live streaming first, and that is what we were founded on. You know, having been around Max for the lucky couple of years that I had. Before he went off to build a space station. You know, having that exposure to him and hearing him talk to different media outlets and hearing him talk to, you know, our marketing guys and trying to explain to them, you know, what Mevo is, I really grabbed the root of that. And it truly does come down to Mevo was created to build long form factor content wherever you are. It's to democratize it. So, you know, if that means you're on a baseball field or you're at a volleyball court or a pickleball or house of worship or whatever the mean is, we want to make sure that you can do it. And as awesome as it is and complicated as it can be, because we do offer so many outlets and solutions to whatever you're trying to accomplish, you know, you could do the same thing 300 different times with Mevo, but you know, it's a benefit and a struggle. But, you know, going from start to finish is, and you've seen it being one of the testers for Core, we had a little bit of everybody in there. We had music, we had live music, we had house of worship, we had sports, we had, you know, and then naturally every single one of our engineers is using the Core all day for, you know, whether it's for meetings, whether it's for creating their own content and just testing it. We had radio stations out there, podcast stations out there, constantly using it before launch. So we really tried to have a wide range of use cases during testing to make sure that we were tackling all of those use cases, because if we truly just said one or the other, then you're right. We wouldn't have been able to, you know, polish the experience for each one of these users and for their use case. So that was my number one goal when I recruited all of the testers, was to make sure that we had not only a wide range of users, because we did have limited amounts of units. I also wanted to make sure I had users who was involved in the community, because you all have a pulse on the community. I have a good pulse, but having more people who have a pulse because you're involved, whether it's with YouTube channels, whether it's helping other organizations get set up, having everybody involved that is communicating with the community regularly allowed us to really get a wide range of opinions and a wide range of different thought processes to make sure that we executed well in all scenarios. You know, we're always going to be a live streaming camera and a live streaming ecosystem, but we don't want to hinder your ability to also choose to go static if you want to as well.
Yeah. Well, you've done a great job. I mean, the company has done a great job of putting a product out there that folks can get behind. I probably answer the question in the email once every day right now. Is it the camera we thought it was going to be? Is it worth it? Is it worth upgrading my my setup? I'm going to keep my starts, or I'm going to keep this or that. Is the core what we hoped it would be? And the answer is yes. It by all means is. And I've told folks so many times, it can be that hub around which you build everything up. It is that good of a camera. So yeah. I feel like
go ahead. Oh, go ahead. Sorry. So what I was saying is basically,
I hate this delay. It's just impossible. Okay.
Yeah. No worries. Go ahead. You can go ahead.
So, the next question, I think you've kind of already touched on it. How did the start success help shape the core? So I was going to skip that one, unless you just had something in particular that you wanted to throw out there about that.
I don't know if it was necessarily Start who did this. Naturally people like the 3.5. That was a big jump up from previous iterations. So that was absolutely going to stick around. I think the biggest thing for Start, I don't know if it was Start or if it was more the whole COVID situation. We seen Mevo spread into so many use cases so rapidly because people had no choice but to do it. Yeah. And I think obviously we launched Start the very beginning of 2020. So, it could be one or the other, whether it was COVID or Start, but it really allowed us to see how big of a need this was. And it really allowed others to see that they could absolutely stream from wherever they wanted to if they really, really were determined enough to do it. And I think it allowed us to see that there are a lot of use cases that could just generally use a better camera, a better point of view from a further distance, from a weather protected building that, it could be a number of things that the core allows you to do that you couldn't necessarily get away with the Start because it wasn't weather resistant. Core isn't either, but you can put it somewhere weather resistant where it can shoot from a distance. So you're not limited by the distance that it's at in as well. And it just made a lot of sense, doing support, seeing posts on a regular basis. I think one thing that we do very well is we listen to the consumer. And that's one of the things, I don't know how many times I've heard is like, I've pushed Mevo Start as far as I can go, I'm going to move on to another camera. And it's like, okay, how do we stop that? How do we get them, the solution so they can stay in the ecosystem, and not only stay there, we can invite more people in. And you've probably seen it, not just with Core, but, we've got HDMI out now. We've got NDI inputs in. So all of these ways to bring users who are not in our ecosystem into the ecosystem, and then keeping people here. So, we're no longer, you use our cameras, you use our apps. You can use whoever's cameras with our apps, or you can use our apps or our cameras with somebody else's apps. It's really, what do you need and what do you want to use it as? And we don't want to limit people anymore. And I think that was all very, very much seen with Start with, using webcam mode. Webcam is one of the highest help articles that we see as far as viewership goes. Webcam mode is one of the highest viewed help articles that I see. And then, we had NDI outputs for Mevo Start. So naturally, we're like, okay, people are loving this. Let's do SRT. Let's do webcam out. Let's do UVC. So it's been a chain reaction, and we've really kind of just taken it step by step with Start kind of being that first pillar, and went from Start to now we'll do multiple cameras. Now we'll do all of these other things. And it's just kind of been a ladder that we've been kind of climbing, watching each step and saying, oh, they're really liking this. Let's go one step further. Let's go one step further. And I think this year is going to be just as exciting. Obviously, we have Core, but I think software-wise, it's going to be really, really fun. And I think it really did all start with, right after Start launched, is seeing all of that third-party use.
I'm glad you brought software into that conversation, because it is the software that is so integral to what you guys have, the success that you've had. We're getting comments about the software already in the chat, because they recognize that's where the ecosystem is built. Yes, you have a good product. The hardware is good. The core is great. We're getting better. We're going to be able to do more with the hardware pieces that you're putting together. But because the software is so incredible, every time we saw a new competitor try to enter the market, and some of them didn't make it, some of them may make it, whatever, it's obvious they studied your software. They were doing their best to come up with what you guys do. So Mevo has been kind of leading the charge in this whole mobile live streaming idea. And it's been great for consumers to be able to say, you know what, I can take this software and I can bring these others. It's good. It's just good, and it's good for all of us.
Totally.
Yeah. Well,
yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead. I can't.
No, I was just saying, the software side of things is like, we obviously have a really good team of engineers, and on the hardware side of things, they just made this Core, and it's been multiple years in the making. Yeah. So it's flattering to see these new potential competitors pop up, and it's also just it's like you said, it's good for everyone. It's not just good for the consumer; it's good for us too, because we can kind of, if somebody's coming in and they're doing something differently and people really love it, and we miss the mark, then we can pivot. If we're missing something, we want to make sure that we hit that mark. And the best way to do that is have third parties come in and kind of shake up the market. And it's been really fun to kind of see these different devices pop up, these different apps pop up. Yeah. And we all love and play with them. I think I have a camera over here that's definitely not ours that I'm playing with. I'm just curious, and it's all about just making sure that we're informed. And if somebody's doing something really well, then why would we not want to give that to our users? And that's the same thing with NDI inputs, right? I had, we were at NAB, and we were near the OBSBot station, and guess what? They handed over 2 cameras. They want me to do an NDI inputs video on how to use their cameras with our software. Oh, that's fantastic. And our team is more than welcome to do that. The first thing I asked Otto, I said, hey, are we good with this? Yes. He said, yes, do it. Absolutely do it. And that was it, so like we aren't afraid to work with other teams. We're not afraid. At the end of the day, our goal is to make sure that you have the tools that you need. And what does Jason say? The confidence to just press go live, right? That's the goal. We want to make sure we do that. And if that means somebody else is bringing tools to the table that our users would benefit from, we want to bring it in. We want to show users how to do it. So it's been really cool to kind of just see software come out, new hardware options coming out. It's been really, really fun to see, honestly.
And what a great mindset to take into all that you do for this community of live streamers. I'm incredibly encouraged to know that that's kind of how y'all think. And so the question is coming in. I got to go ahead and ask, because it's one of the questions that's on our list. What is next for the Mevo ecosystem?
So hardware-wise, I have nothing I can share. That's testers might find out and sooner than later. Who knows? It's impossible to know. Typically, like you said, I sometimes I'll just close my mouth and just don't say anything, because I'll just talk in circles. But software-wise, it's an exciting time. Software is going to be really cool. I know Nate and Otto just headed over to Poland, where our developers are, or some of our developers are, and they're working on our software roadmap. And we just did a poll in the customer group, and naturally we see browser overlays, which HTML overlays, however you want to see it, seems to be the next thing in line. Right next to media playback, obviously, everybody's waiting for that. It's been years in the making, which I've already seen a prototype of, so it's coming. Don't worry. But software's seeing that poll and seeing some of the ideas that the community has. was really encouraging and exciting because, you know, we didn't do multicam before. We didn't have multiple cameras. Now we do. We didn't have NDI. Now we do. We didn't have SRT. Now we do. So seeing media playback on that list is going to be awesome. Seeing browser overlays, that's going to come. When? I couldn't tell you. But UVC inputs, another thing that we've announced at NAB. And I know you've seen, you know, the ability to bring in a Logitech webcam into our ecosystem, or even a third-party webcam, or, you know, a hardware switcher that takes HDMI cameras. I brought an HDMI camera into Mevo Multicam for the first time I've ever done it.
That's awesome.
All just using UVC inputs with a UVC capture card. So it's exciting year for us to bring in yet another way to bring in hardware and to really up-level your production one more time with overlays and media playback. I'm most excited about those two, just because I know how much people want to do, you know, overlays, really fancy overlays. Yep. And, you know, we're not here to recreate the wheel. Maybe eventually we will, but somebody else already did it. So let you bring that into our system, you know, to have a cool production.
Yeah, that's good stuff. And I think that's a pretty good teaser for what's coming in the ecosystem that probably will give people enough to chew on that we're asking that question. Do you have time for me to go through a few other questions?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I'm good for at least the hour, so you should be good.
So TCB in a Flash says, does the M on the preview window for the Core camera mean something in multicam?
Preview, I'm not sure.
It's going to be talking about manual mode.
Oh, okay. I was like, what app are we talking about? So basically between M and lens, manual and lens control. Yeah.
Yes. So that's talking about the lens, and it means that you've got manual control in the app when the M shows up. Am I saying that right?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Good deal.
Nailed it. Yeah. It's that was a tough one to get clarity on when we were working on it. Was, you know, manual to some people means grabbing the lens.
Yes.
So we had to name that one lens, and then it was definitely a tough one. But yeah, so the M is for manual, and then lens is the other option that you have for controlling the focus.
In between that one and the next question, there were a couple of compliments to you about your patience in the Mevo customer group. So kudos to you for folks noticing that you are in fact patient there and very knowledgeable. Then the next question is there a tip on ensuring the video of the Core is in focus on the first try after zooming in or out from multicam, since the preview is a less clear preview?
Mm-hmm. Sure. So what I typically do, we do have peaking in the app. So I will turn on peaking usually, autofocus, and then I double
in multicam.
Exactly. So then you can just double tap on the subject. Now it is contrast based. So if your background is significantly bleached into your foreground, it's going to be a little bit more difficult for it to identify you. But like, for example, me right now, it's all dark behind me. I'm lit up because I have this chandelier style thing in front of me. But it'll find me significantly easier because the outlines are very clear. So if you can do that, and then I also know that you can also zoom in on whatever you're trying to focus on, double tap on it, and then you can zoom back out, and it should still have the focus on that object.
Yes.
That would be my recommendation, but I also keep peeking on just so I have that additional help. And then I know not everybody wants to do this, but I swear by my monitors. So if you have an extra $100 sitting around for a 4K monitor and you can mount that thing, super invaluable, and it looks so clean. Because even if you're previewing within the app, which if you did not know, you could actually up-res the preview in the app. I don't know if you knew that. That was something we kind of did behind the scenes. So now there's like a hidden set. Yeah. So there's a hidden section now, because this was obviously some of the feedback that we got. Not necessarily hidden. We just didn't do like a full-blown announcement on it, similar to how we did UVC. We didn't do an announcement on that for the initial UVC release. But you can go in there and you can change the preview to highest available if you want to. Okay. So you can get a higher preview as possible. But naturally, if you do that, it'll also check out to make sure you're not losing any frames and losing quality. Because at the end of the day, multicam specifically is all operating off your mobile device.
Yes.
So
there.
If it starts to struggle, if you start to struggle, then probably don't want to mess with that too much. And just invest in a monitor where you can see full quality.
So you can up-res your preview using a monitor. They call that a confidence monitor?
Yeah.
I think I've heard that term.
So, so basically you can just go to Google.
I'm sorry. Again.
You're good. You're good. Go ahead. You're good. Okay, I'm going to take a drink of water so you know I'm done.
Oh, there you go. So up-res your preview, use a confidence monitor, zoom all the way in as far as you can before you focus, double tap to focus, right? Use peaking. So there's 4 ways. You just told, who was that asked? I believe it was TCB and a Flash still, how to get a better first try on making sure you're focused. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, and hopefully in the future we'll have, a preview before we push the program type of thing. I know the team would love to see it, so it's just a matter of do we have time, and if we do something like that, what kind of feature gets held up to do it.
Yes.
So I think that's a thing too, is, a lot of people have a lot of wishes and desires, and it's like, all right, so which feature are you willing to wait on for us to do that? So, but I think we'd all love to see it.
Yes. So we would all love to see it by all means. Okay. Next question are there any plans to maybe collaborate with some lens producers that you get some really ultra wide field of view, 140 to 150 horizontals, what they're talking about?
I don't think we have any plans to really work with any lens production. If they are out there and they're interested, and we'd obviously have the conversation. But there's already people out there who know lenses better than we do. And I don't think really working with anybody is going to make something come out, unless there's like an extremely high demand. But if there is, they would know it, I think. So if there is a lens out there that has, a higher field of view like that, then it probably already exists, and you can go grab it. As long as it's micro 4/3, you can use it, or get an adapter if it's not micro 4/3 and use it that way too. Exactly. So I'm sure there's a lens out there that already does that. So it's just a matter of finding it.
Okay, good stuff. All right, Link Spider wants to know, are there any plans to focus track with the Core?
So a continuous autofocus type of thing. I don't think we've got any official, language on our intentions there. We do have a individual, Dan, and our other engineer, Rich, who both do our IQ and also ensure that our Core is functioning for each lens. So if you didn't know, we do release firmware updates for the Core that have built-in profiles for lenses.
Yes.
That way that Core operates uniquely for that lens based on their testing parameters.
Yes.
So, I don't know if we'll get to a place where it's like, we'll release it for everyone, or will we release it for certain lenses where we're confident you'll get the performance you want. I think the last thing that anybody wants is for you to deal with focus chasing and having you deal with all types of issues there. We don't want anyone to be frustrated. Many times people release autofocus or continuous autofocus, and users aren't thrilled with it. So we're not going to try to release something that's half-baked. We want to make sure that if we do something like a continuous autofocus, that it's done well and right, and we're very transparent on how that's going to look. And the teams, they're always looking for ways to improve focus, autofocus. And if it and when it comes, it's hard to tell, but the team's always doing R&D on our focus, whether it's the current implementation or whether it's a continuous autofocus. They're constantly doing R&D to make sure that, we're giving the best features that we can.
Okay.
And if the opportunity arises where, we execute really well and it's like, let's do it, we're not going to hold that back. We're a proud team. We want to make sure we get it out there. But we don't want to do anything that's half-baked, I guess I would call it.
Well, I appreciate that. And to your point, you are surrounded by some great folks. You do have a great team that works in that area and around you. I'm always impressed whenever I get a chance to visit with them. Okay, I have another question.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Asking about pay-per-use for Mevo Pro instead of monthly subscription. Would that be a possibility?
Probably not. So Mevo Pro is built on Streamlabs Ultra. So if you're not familiar, Streamlabs is another brand within Logitech, and they already had a subscription model that existed. We built Mevo Pro off of that. We white labeled it Mevo Pro instead of Streamlabs Ultra, simply to keep it simpler and not confuse users. Whether we did the opposite, it's hard to tell. It depends who you ask. But basically, with Mevo Pro, you get all of Streamlabs Ultra's features. Right. So with that, we don't really have the flexibility to modify the subscription model unless we went ahead and, we were able to stop their team. Again, if we want to do something, we have to ask their team, and then they've got to agree, and then they've got to stop what they're working on. So we're all struggling with that balance of, is it worth it? What's more worth it, a new feature or to backtrack to add something like that? So I'm not going to bank on it. I wouldn't wait on that. But to that point, since it is part of Streamlabs Ultra, you do have the ability to use all of the features. So if you're not familiar with what you would get with Streamlabs Ultra, also known as Mevo Pro, you can go to streamlabs.com and check out all the other awesome, powerful things that you have access to by having Streamlabs Ultra.
So you can sign in with the same email you used for Mevo Pro at streamlabs.com and see all that stuff. All that you have access to.
Yep. If you go to you go to streamlabs.com/ultra, it'll show you all of the features that you get with it. And it's a ton. You get obviously the Streamlabs desktop, Streamlabs mobile, which you really don't need because you have Mevo, but you also have Talk Studio, a video editor, podcast editor, which is really cool. If you've not played with it, it allows you to actually see the text instead of the video format. The video is over here and the text is over here. You can highlight the text, delete it, and it'll delete that section of the video.
That is pretty cool.
So you're editing using text. So basically it has the ability to find ums and dead zones to kind of cut down your video significantly. So there's a lot of really, really cool, powerful features over there in Streamlabs, and you get all of that with Mevo Pro. So if you think it's just multi-destination, if you think it's just Mevo Go, if you think it's so much more than all of that. So don't hesitate. It's a really powerful thing. And if you're not sure and you want to talk about this and you're in the customer group, go ahead and post. I'm happy to talk about all of those things. If you make a public post, I think this would be information a lot of users probably don't know, and they'd welcome knowing that their investment actually comes with a whole toolbox of additional tools.
Yeah, I have played with it a little bit, and there is a ton more than just what we get through the Multicam app or just through Mevo Pro. Okay, next question. Fathead 302 is back, and there's got to be a little bit of tongue-in-cheek here. He says, I know you can't talk about your hardware, but we promise not to tell. So your new 4K PTZ cam is coming out in Q3?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, I don't think we're getting the question.
It's actually kind of funny. Yeah, no, there's definitely absolutely no timelines, but I will say how many times that we've said, hey, the other part of Logitech has existing PTZ cameras. Why couldn't we just add a Mevo chip to it and, add the Mevo protocol to it, add a Wi-Fi chip to it? Those are just ideas that I've thrown out there. Absolutely no official conversations that I can share ever happened about it. But it is kind of funny to see those existing products already on the Mevo ecosystem or Logitech ecosystem and say, I wonder how we can integrate those. And I mean, we're already seeing it with UVC inputs, right? Yeah. Already seeing it with UVC inputs. So who knows how far we'll take all of these integrations.
Well, I have to admit, there was a period of time in my use of Mevo that I was pretty sure the official Mevo slogan was coming soon.
Yeah, that was an internal slogan too. I know Will, myself, we've talked about getting hats and shirts and coming soon.
Yes. Throw those up for auction.
Tough because Right. Go ahead and sign them.
Yes.
It's funny because we have it's funny how that originated, because we all want to tell everyone our plans and our timelines, but we also noticed at the same time when we did that, we got a ton of backlash when we never met them.
Yes.
So it became,
Yes.
it was like, you know what, if we are going to get backlash, it's better to just be vague and only share it when we're ready. Because obviously we all get excited. We're all a bunch of nerds at Mevo and at Logitech. Basically, we all just want to share what cool stuff we're working on.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes maybe we got ahead of ourselves and we're like, we're going to do this, but we never like gave exact, this is going to be a work in progress. We're just sharing with you guys how excited we are to see it come together. So if we didn't meet the deadlines, because again, we're not going to release a half-baked feature just to say we did it. We want to make sure it works well. So we kind of just went back off of saying no timelines at all. But I actually would be curious what everyone thinks. We've had some internal conversations recently of what if we did basically like a table where it was like coming soon or currently in work and then like completed. That way everybody can see what we've done, what's going to come, not necessarily when, and then, potential ideas that have been voted on. I'd be interested in hearing if that would be something anybody would be interested in seeing. Obviously, we've had on our website, coming soon, media playback, coming soon, NDI, coming soon. So, we've had all of those things before, and we did. Yeah, I know. So we've had it there before, and we've done coming soon before, and it's nice to say it's coming, but again, some people want timelines, and I just don't know that we're ever going to be prepared to go down that path again.
Yeah. And it's not necessary. I mean, we like to give you a hard time about it. You did hit on the hardest part about being a tester. You've got this incredible stuff that you're testing. You're geeking out over it. You can't tell anybody. I hate that part.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
Yeah, imagine doing that for years. So basically, I remember the day before we released Mevo Start, somebody tagged me on the Facebook group and they were like, "Hey, when's the next camera coming out?" And I was like, "You think they tell me anything?" Yeah. And then the very next day, I'm doing an unboxing video on Mevo Start. Yeah. It's like, trust me, I want to tell you all everything, but it's just not good for business.
That's right. That's right. Oh my goodness. Joe, I've taken up more of your time than I intended to. You've been so incredibly gracious. Thank you so much for all you do for the mobile live streaming community. Thank you for your attitude, and just thanks for spending time with us tonight, brother. I appreciate so much you taking the time to be with us.
Of course. Absolute pleasure. I'd love to do it again sometime, maybe back when I'm on my set. Maybe when we have something fun to talk about, I'd be happy to jump on here again if you need to or would like me to be on here. And thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you for creating content for our community and just kind of teaching the ins and outs of live streaming. It's invaluable to everybody who wants to be a Mevo user or just wants to stream. It's something that I wish more people would do, but I also understand how difficult it is. So thank you for doing it. And to anybody tuning in, who hasn't joined our Facebook group, go check it out.
Absolutely.
That's the Mevo customer group. If you're not a user, go check it out, ask some questions, make some difficult questions. And we'd be happy to, engage with you and just see what your goals are and see how we can make it happen. So thank you again, Jason, for having me. And I'll see you all next time, hopefully.
All right. Well, I can guarantee you that I am better off for having, let me get that monitor turned down. I am better off for having been in conversation with Joseph Capehart. Thank you so much for taking the time. Thank those of you that put up questions. I appreciate you doing that as well. I've got a couple other things to share with you, though, so I'm not running off just yet. There's a couple of things that I would like to visit with you about. And it's really, this is kind of the news section. I try to do some updates about what's going on in the world of live streaming, especially mobile live streaming. And I know that since the last time we had a podcast, the Mevo app has had a few minor updates for bug fixes and for user experience enhancements. The Multicam app specifically has had those user experience enhancement, but also they've included some finer lens control for the Core the list of compatible lenses was included in one of the updates, and so there's been good stuff. They're continuing. He talked about software a lot while he was with us a few minutes ago, and they do a great job of keeping their software very current, updated, listening to feedback from users and making sure that the bugs that they find are fixed, and it's just a good team, and we appreciate them very much for what they facilitate. And we invest in that, but yeah, it's what makes our live streams as good as they are, so we're thankful for that. Nearstream, another company that is also producing some quality hardware and software, they've updated their software for stream stability and multi-screen view functionality. Now, I'll have a VM46 in my hands tomorrow, so I plan on putting those improvements to the test. I'll be bringing out my VM33, my VM46 that's coming in the mail tomorrow, and testing out that new software update. So it is it's another good weekend. I get to take care of some learning for this weekend to do. I'm going to grab one thing. So the print has been designed and it has passed the test. The heat shield for the Mevo Core. I know I announced a couple of weeks ago that we were designing that. I asked for your feedback, asked for your input about it, and whether we needed a back and whether we needed a front. I don't have those on my other heat shields, but we printed this one with it. It is also a two-layer. There's an inner layer and an outer layer, so you get that cushion of air in between. You notice there is a gap around this side, around the top and two sides, and that is by design so that it will let that air flow through. It's a two-piece design, back and front. It slides on before you put the lens on there, not after. It is that opening is not big enough to go around a lens, but there you go. It's held in place just like so. I like to run just a little bit of a gap. You can close the gap if you want to. Obviously, there it is, but I run just a little bit of a gap on mine to give that airflow. It does have a cold shoe mount on the top, does not cover the bottom, and you do have cutouts for the lights, for the status lights top and bottom. You can still get to the power button on back and to all of your ports on the back as well. This will be, I'll update my merchandise page tonight if I have time. If not, it'll happen tomorrow, but this will be a $30 shipped heat shield. So I know the VM33 heat shield is $30. It's the same price as that one. It's a little bit more than the Mevo Start heat shield, but there's a little more product here, a little more filament in this, and it takes a little longer to print. So it's gonna be $30 shipped. And the way that usually works out, in case you don't know, the way that usually works out is that means it's $30 for the first one, and then it's $25 for each additional one, as long as it'll fit in one shipment. I think I can fit 3 of these in the boxes that I've ordered, in the same way that I can fit 3 Mevo Start heat shields in the mailer that I used. So $30 for the first one, $25 after that, but that will go up. That will go up on the merchandise page tonight or tomorrow. And remember, on that page, clicking the email button is the way to start the order. It's not really a store. It's just a merchandise page, and so you just email me, and I'll let you know. My printer did die at the end of last week, and so I was a little bit behind for a few days. But I've upgraded, and I've added to the ability to print. So I am able to print enough to be able to keep up with the orders, and so thank you so much. Heat shields for Mevo Start and Core for Nearstream VM33, and I assume the 46. Everything that I see says they're the exact same size. They just have a different sensor in them. So be able to do a heat shield for a 33 or a 46. Of course, we do the heat shield for the eMeet StreamCam 1 as well, and we have the little router shelves. If there are other things that you need 3D printed for your setup, let me know. I don't mind designing. I don't mind printing. Actually, that's one of the things I do just as an enjoyment. So if you have those kind of requests, I'll be glad to tackle those. and see if there's a market for it, see if that's going to be something that will help more than just the one person. But by all means, give me a little feedback there, and we'll see what we can do in the world of 3D printing for you to protect the investment that you've made. I'm just going to say thanks again to Joseph Capehart. You probably know him as Joe Mevo. That was just a tag he used for a long time. But how much we appreciate him, his input, his willingness to help clients, customers, all of that. It is such a benefit to the live streaming community, especially the mobile live streaming community, to have somebody like Joe who is on our side. He is by all means advocating for us in the company. We talked about stream failures at the beginning of this. I know that I have had my fair share of failed live streams. This one was one of them. It's failed twice before the third time, and I finally got it to go. I've done consultations with folks who have never streamed before, and they want to practice. Hey, can you walk me through the process, step by step by step? And I want to make sure that it succeeds the first time I go live, because it's going to be my kid's baseball game, or it's going to be my kid's graduation, or it's going to be something important like that to them. And I'm glad to do those consultations. But if you do fail, don't forget, it's going to be okay. Let that failure launch you forward, because you can dive in and you can figure out what went wrong and make sure you've got a plan in place so that you succeed the next time. Have the confidence to just press go live. I appreciate you guys being in the chat. I appreciate you guys being with us. And if you need anything from me, be sure and reach out. My email is in the video description. And I look forward to seeing you guys on the next video. Y'all have a great night.